as you will know, Tommy Lawrence, Alf Darcy, Laurie Churchill, Roger Day had all been famous managers and players at Enfield, and they came to Slough. When they came to Slough, I was in the reserves. Basically, I played at Slough for Tommy and Laurie, and when 3 years after joining Slough, Tommy came back to Enfield, as you'll remember, in '73, and he asked me to come. And you know, I'd learnt so much from Tommy and Laurie Churchill, Roger, Alf, a bit like Tony was saying earlier. You know, I learnt so much from those guys, and I respected them so much that I really couldn't say no. They'd given me my chance at Slough when other people hadn't, and what could I say? I had to come.
And what was your first impressions of Enfield when you arrived?
Well, when I first came to Enfield, this was before Tommy Unwin joined, and when we came, it very soon became apparent that Enfield didn't have very much money. And I think Tommy had been brought back under false pretenses, although I can't speak for him, but it seemed to me that he probably had. And they didn't have the money or the resources, it would seem, to be the club that they had been. And I do recall we missed quite a few weeks of wages during the middle of that season, and then Tommy Unwin came in, all the back pay was paid, all the back wages were paid, and you know, we took off from there.
Okay. Tony, how did you come to join Enfield?
I used to play for a really good youth side called Free and Barnet Boys Club. It was a really good club. It had a sponsor, so you know, we had a mini bus and all that. Free and Barnet Football Club joined Enfield and took over the reserve team, basically. So the boys club became the reserve team, and the guy that used to run it, Peter, can't remember his second name, became the reserve manager. And as I say, we were a pretty good side, so a couple of the players came through. At that time, the left back in the senior team, I think, had a quite serious injury. I got the opportunity to play left back and played and trained with the first team, and that was it really. That was how I joined, and thrived really. It was, but as Sully said, it wasn't quite the club it had been. Howard Moxon was the manager at that time. Tommy had gone off. Actually, Roger Day stayed for a bit longer because
he did. Yeah.
Roger really was giving me a lot of support as a youngster, and learnt a hell of a lot from him. But about halfway through the season, he went on to Slough, and but that was my introduction to senior football.
Quite early on in your days with Enfield, you played an Italian team in the European Amateur Cup Winners' Cup.
We did.
What was your experience of playing the Italians?
Well, it was pretty good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But the home game, I was on the bench basically as a sub, and I think I got on towards the end. But when we went out there, it was a tough game. And again, Roger was a bit of a hero there. The Italians weren't taking prisoners, so it was a bit of a battle. And I've still got a scar across the top of my eye. Neil Baxter was sewing me up, or not Neil Baxter, the doctor before, whose name escapes me at the moment. We saw him earlier.
Eddie Franklin?
Eddie Franklin.
Yeah.
It might have been Eddie Franklin, was actually sewing me up at half time. But it was a fantastic experience, and we've had this discussion, and I scored a goal, I think. I think I scored the winner over there, but I think we beat them over here by a couple of goals as well, didn't we? But it was a great experience as well. You know, as a kid, I'd been abroad, but I was, you know, abroad in Italy, eating the Italian food, you know, enjoying. I think we went off to watch an Italian game as well, Inter Milan or whoever, and it was a fantastic experience.
In the early 70s, you were amateur players. Did you receive any sort of payment for your services?
Yeah, we did. I did, certainly as an amateur, yeah.
Initially, as a youngster, I received very little, but very quickly some of the other players put me right and said you should be getting something. So yeah, I mean, I was receiving money as well. Yeah.
Then in 1974, they legalised making payments to players. How did that affect you financially?
Well, I think in 1974, Tony and I were still, you know, youngish players, still on the up, I think. So I think it's fair to say that you know, I'd moved from Slough to Enfield. Enfield had their tough times, but with the advent of the Tommy Unwins of this world, you know, Enfield were paying top money. So although, yeah, I was earning a lot more money as the years went along, you know, while I was still important to the club and important to the likes of Tommy Unwin, you know, we all got good money, even though you were under contract. I don't think it made an awful lot of difference, really, in many ways, whether you were or weren't under contract. But yeah, I was coming through still, so I was getting more money each season, really.
Yeah.
And in theory, I mean, I was at Ilford at that time when it came in, and in theory, I mean, basically what happened is I got the same money that I was getting, but apparently I was paying tax on it. So, and I never really worked out how that happened, because I never really, you know, we didn't really get a form to say this is your tax on it, this is, you know, there was some evidence of tax, but it never affected my wages, because, you know, you'd agree
What you were going to get.
the sum you were going to get, and that would be it. You know, what the club did in terms of upping that and taking tax off was the club's business, really.
Just as a guideline, and without divulging it to the taxman, what sort of money would you have been on a week at Enfield at some stage during your time with the club?
Personally, I can't remember. I just cannot remember. I couldn't even give you a figure. It's so long ago, I can't remember. Can you?
No, I can't. I remember the first money that I got, which was £10 a week, which as a 17, 18-year-old, that was pretty good going anyway, you know, because I think my wages as working in BT as an apprentice was about £10 a week. So, you know, getting £10 to play football as well was a bit of a feat, really. I really can't remember. I remember the kind of, you know, the signing on fees more than I do the amount of money we were getting.
In 1976, Enfield played an Italian team home and away. Out in Italy, there was some trouble at the games. Mickey, what do you remember of that?
Yeah, Pistoiese away. What a game. Unbelievable. My memory of it, I don't know if it's the same as yours, Del, but my memory of it is that they were a very, very physical side, Pistoiese, which we didn't mind. I mean, we were a physical side as well. But the game here was very bad-tempered against them, whereas the other Italian team in our group were called Teramo, and they were a good side, but they were a fair side. And we had good games with them, but Pistoiese was terrible. We went over there and we played, and from memory, and I couldn't absolutely swear this, but I think Geno gave one of their players a smack, Tony Jennings. And as a result of that, it all kicked off. And there was just fights all over the pitch. And there was a guy in central midfield who I was the opposite number to, who I'd had a bit of a running battle with him home and away anyway. And he caught me blindside, clipped me one, cut my eye open, which again, I'm getting stitched up. And it really was, you know, a full-on fight. And when it all calmed down, Fred Callan called us off the pitch. We all left the pitch. And it seems to me that the crowd, after we'd walked off, the crowd seemed to double. And they're after our blood. And we're stuck in the changing rooms for about an hour and a half. And the police in the end had to get a bunch of police cars and smuggle us out in police cars to get us out from the crowd that were baying for our blood outside. So it was all a bit hairy, yeah.
That was similar to, didn't Arsenal or one of the English sides go out there and get the same treatment from one of the crowds?
Arsenal against Lazio.
Lazio,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
Lazio, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
it was exactly the same.
It really was. The crowd seemed to double.
Yeah.
And they were literally waiting for us outside. They wrecked the coach. They wrecked our coach. And the police had to get us out in police cars, you know, while they're banging on the windows of the cars while we're getting driven out. So it was really quite hairy for a while there.
Same. I mean, it sounds, you know, we didn't have that experience when, you know, in those earlier days, but the Italians did physically try to intimidate us, and fortunately we had a side, same as Sully's, very robust, and Roger Day, I think, led the charge. So you know, again, but the Italians, they did try to kick us off the park.
Yeah. Away from the match room, Leslie, what memories do you have of your time spent there? How long were you out there for?
We didn't get a holiday out of it, but
we were there for 2 weeks. We were there for 2 weeks, and it
I
really
can't
was.
believe this. I'm really upset
It was
that
like a
we didn't
family
get 2
holiday.
weeks as well.
We stayed in Rimini, and we literally had a beach holiday for 2 weeks, and only interrupted by these bloody football matches. And we took wives, kids, everything. It was fantastic. It was a really great holiday, I have to say. The football was the downside. And we didn't really train because it was the end of a long season, as per usual. And it was really a holiday for the wives and the kids as well. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
As I say, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
It was just a trip out there, a game, and as I say, I think we went to see Inter Milan, so we, you know, went to a great stadium, but you know, we didn't get a holiday out of it.
You weren't treated as well as Sully, no.